Dear Lord, thank you for giving us the opportunity to learn today. Please guide our minds to understand the topic being discussed. Please give us wisdom, focus, and confidence to use this knowledge in a meaningful way. Amen.
Learners with disabilities are the one who's prone in criticizing, judging, and bullying. Because of this obstacle, many of the students needed to stop their studies, according to the Guzman Benjamin. But as we promote inclusive education for all, we should be the one who will understand the situation of every learners, and we should be the one also who will motivate them despite their disabilities that they face.
Objectives. At the end of the report, the learners are expected to first, understand the concept and importance of the typology of learners with special needs. Second, identify and classify the different categories of learners with disabilities.
Next is describe the key characteristics and challenges of each type of learner. The fourth one, differentiate learning activities for both learners with disabilities. And then the last objectives we have, enhance knowledge and implement educational tools for learners with special needs.
And today, I will be discussing about the typology of learners with special needs. The first one is cerebral palsy. When we say cerebral, it refers to having to do with the brain or yung mga kaya mong gawin within your brain. 'Di ba ang alam natin yung brain is na nagpo-process ng emotions, ng thoughts, ng mga feelings, mga ideas, and also when it comes to decisions making. And also, the palsy, it means the weakness or problems with using the muscles. Basically, cerebral palsy, it is a disorders that affects the person's the ability to speak, to walk, or to communicate with others effectively. But it's also, there are three types of cerebral palsy, which is the spasticity. People with spasticity, cerebral palsy, this means their muscles are stiff. As a result, their movement can be awkward. And the next one is dyskinesia. When we say dyskinesia cerebral palsy, it is a problem of controlling your hands, your arms, your legs as well. That is also make it difficult to sit and walk. Yung parang ano, pag sinabing dyskinesia is ito yung mga hindi na nila nakokontrol yung kamay nila, yung movement ng hands nila, yung movement ng ano, paa, ganon. Tapos meron din naman tayong tinatawag na ataxia cerebral palsy. This is the problems with balance and coordination. So, minsan napapansin nyo, di ba yung mga tao is pag, yung mga normal people, pag nakatayo sila is hindi sila natutumba, which is balance. But, so, the people who has these conditions is hindi sila balance or natutumba sila. Ganun na nga, natutumba sila. Tapos naman, saan nga ba nagmula or nagkakos yung cerebral palsy? Allow me to explain. So, nangyayari yan minsan sa abnormal development. Habang nasa loob pa lang ng tiyan yung baby. For example, yung nanay is buntis, tas yung baby niya is 8 months na. Tapos yung brain is hindi pa siya fully developed. Diyan minsan nakukuha yung cerebral palsy na conditions. Tas meron din naman tayong tinatawag na other causes, which is the exposure. Pag sinabi nating exposure, is dito yung mother or yung nagbubuntis is exposed sa mga alcohol, sa mga drugs, or sa mga cigarettes, or any other toxic substances that will affect the babies during pregnancy. So, ano nga ba yung mga sign or symptoms na ang isang bata ay may cerebral palsy? Allow me to explain. So, let's go back pala sa ating causes. Pag sinabi nating ayun na nga, yung subnormal development is eto siya. Ayan. Perfect. Tapos meron din naman, ayan, exposed sa mga ganyan. Kaya naman dapat iwasan natin yan habang nag-ano tayo during pregnancy. Tapos, yung sign or symptoms na ang isang tao ay may condition or kinakaharap na cerebral palsy is yung posture. Ito yung posture na halimbawa. 'Di ba tayo is pag nakatayo tayo is diretso. So sila is ganito yung nila. Ganyan. Ganyan yung standing nila. Hindi sila properly nakatayo. And the next one is the balance. Yan. Ito na nga yung turn or yung walang mga di ba yung isang tao is mayroon siyang pupuntahan. For example, dito. Tapos naman yung isang bata na may, or yung isang learners na may cerebral palsy is pagewang-gewang siya, te. Pagewang-gewang, eto siya. Ganyan yung examples natin. Nakikita nyo naman sa pictures. Ayan. And the next one. So, sa ating classroom or school institutions, kung ang isang learners is napasok sa paaralan, ang magiging benefits niya para sa mga learners is self-advocacy. They will be able to express themselves no matter what are the conditions they currently facing. Yan. Mamamotivate din ito yung ibang learners na may cerebral palsy na hindi nag-aaral na nai-express yung sarili nila na sa mga ganong style na yun. Tapos yung academic growth. Pag sinabi nating academic growth, may improve dito yung knowledge nila. May improve yung kaalaman nila, madadagdagan. And also show social skills. So, minsan yung mga student or yung mga learners na may sakit na cerebral palsy is mas prefer nilang mag-isolate or yung mapag-isa sila. But if a learners feel so accepted, yung social skills nila, makaka-build also sila ng mga relationship within their peers. Ayun. Tapos, motivated. Mamomotivate sila na hindi hadlang yung condition na yon para matuto. So, ano naman yung benefits nito sa isang learners na may kaklase na walang ano naman yung benefits ng cerebral palsy sa mga student na walang ganitong condition? Or if ever may classmates silang may ganitong conditions. Yung magiging benefits niya is yung empathy and diversity. may instill ng new knowledge or new perspective na dapat intindihin at deserve din nila ng edukasyon. Na edukasyon na para matuto. Meron din naman tayong reduce stigma. Pag sinabi natin reduce stigma, mababawasan yung pagiging mababawasan naman to. Or yung parang malalasan yung pagiging judgment nila na dapat hindi ginajudge yung ganong taong may conditions. So the next topic that I will be discussing for today is Trisomy 21. Trisomy 21 is or sometimes we call Down syndrome is a genetic conditions where na kung saan napapasa siya. For example, is yung parents is may Down syndrome na talaga or yung mother. Tapos, yung mother na to is nagbuntis na siya. Tapos, yung pagkapanganak niya, yung condition na yun is napasa niya sa anak niya. That's what we call genetic. Na kung saan nga napapasa. Okay. So, yung trisomy 21 is most people or normal people have 23 pairs of chromosomes with a total of 46. Normal people contain chromosomes of 46. But people with trisomy 21 or Down syndrome, their chromosome is contained is 47, which is yung pagdevelop ng brain or yung pagdevelop ng physical appearance ng isang taong may ganitong condition is very different. Kung iisipin, no? Saan nga ba ano nga ba yung cause ng trisomy 21 aside from its genetic nga? Random error cell division. Pag sinabi nating random error cell divisions, is ito yung cells is may extra copy siya ng chromosomes 21. Ito yung examples or ito yung pictures ng random error cell divisions. As you can see. Ayan. Ito siya, random error cell division. Magkasama siya, tas eventually is ayun na nga, pahiwalay siya ng pahiwalay as you can see. That's what we called random error cell divisions na nagkakos ng trisomy or Down syndrome. The next one is extra copy of chromosomes 21. So, this cause is by the extra copy of chromosomes 21 nga. Tapos, yung magiging ano niya is yung brain, yung characteristics ng isang bata is magde-develop ng kakaiba. Magiging kakaiba rin yung facial features ng isang taong may ganitong condition, ano? So, after the causes of trisomy, let us now dive in the symptoms or signs that a person has a trisomy 21 or what we call Down syndrome. Usually, yung heart, medyo mabilis silang mapagod. Or may mga sakit sila sa puso. Ganon. Yung kidney rin nila, may problem din sila sa kidney. Tapos, maliit yung hands nila. Unlike sa atin, maliliit lang yung hands nila. Or minsan pa nga, dikit-dikit yan eh. Or minsan may kulang. Tapos, the third one is small ears. Maliit lang din yung tenga nila. As in, sobrang liit lang. Unlike sa mga normal people. Tapos, meron ding protruding tongue or maiksi yung dila nila. Which is difficult them to nahirapan sila magsalita, kaya minsan hindi nila na ipapabatid yung mga gusto nilang sabihin, like in certain aspect, like their opinions, or sometimes nagkukos pa ngayon ng misunderstanding between two people eh. Then, the fourth one is maiksi yung leg nila. Maiksi. And yung weak muscle or mahina yung muscles nila. Mahina yung muscles nila. Tsaka, ang last one is flat yung nose. So, I will be showing a pictures that a person is ito yung pictures na sinasabi ko. Ito yung mga signs. As you can see, ayan. Ayan, maiksi yung leeg. Medyo flat yung nose. Tapos medyo maliit yung ears nila. Ayan o. Ayan yung sinasabi, flat yung nose. Medyo yung leeg. Tapos yung makikita mo kasi siya sa facial features niya. Ito yun siya. Actually, 3 yan. Ayan. So, if magkakaroon kayo ng student or sa mga nanonood dyan, as a future teachers, if magkakaroon kayo ng student na may conditions na ganitong trisomy 21, would you accept it? For me, sa akin opinion ko is yes. Because they are also people. Tao rin sila na may rights to have an educations. Because we are all equal in this world. So, kagaya nga lang din na sinabi ko kanina, yung mga benefits niya is kagaya lang din ng sa tinakal ko kanina sa cerebral palsy is ma-improve yung mga social skills, yung self-advocacy, yung mga motivations, tapos ma-reduce yung mga stigma, ganon, and so.
What is a learning disability? It is a condition in which a person struggles processing information or using information. It can make certain academic skills harder to do, such as reading, writing, and doing math. Learning disability also has 3 common types. These common types being dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, which all have different ways in affecting a person's academic skills, such as dyslexia, which affects a person's reading comprehensions or how they interpret spelling and stuff, and dysgraphia, which affects a person's writing, and dyscalculia, which affects a person's understanding of math. Now that we've discussed what is a learning disability is and what its 3 common types, let's talk about how learning disability occurs and how people get these conditions. So, there are 5 known reasons on why learning disability occurs, and the first one being genetics, as learning disability can run in the family and may be inherited by the next generation. Second is brain development differences, and what this means is that parts of the brain may process languages, numbers, and memories differently. And third is problems during pregnancy or birth, such as lack of oxygen, premature birth, or exposure to harmful substances, such as smoking or alcohol. Fourth is illness or injuries, and how this one works is that illnesses such as infections that can affect the brain and injuries that can also affect the brain. And lastly, we have environmental factors such as lack of nutrition, exposure to toxins, and limited learning opportunities that may affect a child's development.
Learners with physical disabilities. So, a learner with a physical disability is an individual who has a physical impairment caused by injury, illness, or congenital condition that affects their motor skills, mobility, or bodily function, but does not necessarily impact intellectual capacity. So, yung mga learners with physical disabilities ay yung mga estudyante na malabo yung mata, bulag, may physical sila na disability katulad ng pilay, mga ganun. So first is visual impairment. Visual impairment is a condition where a person has reduced eyesight that cannot be fully corrected with glasses, contact lenses, or medical treatment. It can make it difficult to see clearly, read, or recognize objects, and may require special support for learning and daily activities. Yung mga visual impairment ay yung mga malalabo yung mata, farsighted, nearsighted, yung mga ganun. So for example, yung estudyante na may low vision, nahihirapan silang magbasa ng mga nasa blackboard. Kaya yung mga teacher, ang mga ginagamit nilang strategy is magbibigay sila or ang gagawin nilang mga IMs is yung malalaki yung text, maliwanag or malinaw. So, different types of visual impairment is hyperopia. Farsightedness can see object far away but not near. So, yung hyperopia is yung farsighted, yung mga taong hindi nila nakikita yung kunyari yung mga babasahin. Hindi nila masyadong makita. Pero pag yung nasa blackboard na, mabilis na nilang nakikita or maliwanag para sa kanila. Next is myopia. Nearsightedness can see object for near but not far away. So, ito naman yung kabaliktaran ng hyperopia. Yung myopia is, nakikita naman nila yung malalapit, kunyari mga textbooks, yung mga libro, mga sulatin. Ayun yung mas mabilis nilang makita. Tapos yung, ang naman nila, pag nasa malayo na, ayun naman yung parang malabo yung paningin nila doon and hindi nila nababasa. Next is astigmatism. Cannot focus at once one object regularly causes blurred vision. So, yung astigmatism naman ay yung mata nila parang hindi nila kayang makapag-focus agad dun sa isang bagay. Parang nagiging blurry. For example, tumingin sila sa may pinapakita ng teacher na object, kunyari bola. Yung bola na yun, parang blurred para sa kanila. Last is color blindness. Problem causal of the eyes, trouble telling the difference between colors. So, yung color blindness naman, ay yung mga estudyante or mga tao na hindi nila kayang i-identify yung mga colors. For example, yung mga apple, hindi nila alam na red pala yun kasi iba yung color, parang black and white lang sa kanila. So, next naman, alamin natin kung ano nga ba yung mga causes ng visual impairment. First is, transfer of genes associated from the parents. So, yung ibang visual impairment is nakukuha or namamana lang siya sa mga magulang. For example is, yung parents niya is malabo yung mata or colorblind. So, posible na yung isang bata is makuha niya yon or mamana niya na colorblind siya or malabo yung mata niya. Next is, carelessness adopted by pregnant mother. So, pwede naman na yung habang buntis yung magulang or yung isang tao, habang buntis siya is nagsasmoke siya, umiinom ng alcohol, and nagtitake ng drugs. So, posible na yung bata or yung sanggol is paglabas niya, magkaroon siya ng visual impairment. Third is, mishaps and incidents. So, pwede naman dito, for example, yung isang tao na nagtatrabaho sa factory, posible na nagkaroon ng incident na nalagyan yung mata niya ng harmful chemicals. So, pwede siyang mabulag. Fourth is eye infection and eye disease. So, next naman dito is yung mga sakit katulad ng colorblind, may catarata, yun. Tapos, pwede siyang mabulag. Lalo na yung matatanda, pwede siyang mabulag, lalo na yung catarata is pag hindi nagamot. Lastly is reading, writing, and working in defective improper lights. So, ito naman is pwede din siyang maging cause ng visual impairment. For example is yung isang estudyante is nagbabasa siya or lastly is reading, writing, and working in defective improper light. So, for example is, yung isang estudyante is lagi siya nagbabasa, nagsusulat sa isang madilim na lugar o sa sobrang liwanag na lugar. Pwede dito maging cause ng visual impairment kasi pwede siyang, yung mata niya is mag-blurred na yung vision niya and magkaroon siya ng eye strain. So, next naman is teaching strategies for students with visual impairment. First is, encourage the students to use visual aids resources that have been prescribed. So, dito naman is, bilang teacher, pwede mong i-encourage yung students na gumamit ng mga eyeglasses, magnifiers, or mga large textbooks. So, para dito, yung mga malalabo yung mata is makasabay sila sa mga bata na walang visual impairment. Dahil dito sa tool na to, maaari silang matuto ng mas maayos and para mas maintindihan nila yung mga tinuturo ng teacher. Next is suitable light. So, dito naman is maganda na yung mga malalabo yung mata is pwede mo silang ilagay sa pwesto na malapit yung window or may mas malinaw na area. Next is use of enlarged print, magnified worksheets, and the printed material must be clear and dark. So, dito naman is pwede mong gamiting tool is yung mga text na gagamitin mo sa mga IMs mo is yung malalaki and dapat walang mga blurred and mga small letters. Para yung mga students na malabo yung mata is mas maintindihan nila or mas makita nila ng maayos yung mga text na nakalagay sa mga charts. Next naman is supplement visual materials with clear verbal explanation. So, pwede naman na gamitin mo is yung, kunyari may mga globe ka, map yung mga inaano mo. Pwede bilang teacher, pwede mo siyang i-explain ng mas maayos and dapat loud yung boses mo sa pag-explain ng mga tinuturo mo. Para yung mga may visual impairment is, hindi sila mas mahirapan na magbasa, mas madadalian sila dahil naririnig nila yung mga tinuturo ng teacher. Last is, increase oral activities. So, dito naman is mas maganda na yung gamitin mo lagi strategy sa pagtuturo is more on speaking or oral recitation, question and answer, discussion, debates, and storytelling. So, para din yung mga student na malalabo yung mata or may visual impairment is mas engaged sila and mas maintindihan nila yung mga tinuturo mo. Kasi naririnig nila at mas naiintindihan nila. Hearing impairment. So, hearing impairment is a condition where a child has difficulty in hearing sounds ranging from mild to severe, and it may be temporary or permanent. This can affect learning, especially in activities that rely on listening. So, yung hearing impairment naman is, dito yung mga estudyante or yung tao is nahihirapan sa kanilang pandinig or may problema sila sa pandinig. So, dito naman is mahirap yung hearing impairment lalo na sa mga activities na nagre-rely sa mga listening. For example, yung mga pag may storytelling, may mga debates, yun nahihirapan silang makinig sa mga sinasabi ng mga tao. So, next naman is types of hearing impairment. First is conductive loss. Refers to decrease in sound caused by a problem in the outer and middle ear. So, yung type ng hearing impairment na to is yung kapag may problem tayo sa outer and middle ear natin. So, dahil dito, yung mga sounds na sinasabi sa atin is hindi siya nakakapunta sa inner ear natin. Kasi nga, pwedeng maging cause nun is yung may earwax tayo or may eardrum problem tayo or may infection. Second is sensory neural loss. Refers to a problem located in the inner ear along the nerve pathway between the near ear and the brain. So, dito naman is, yung problem naman dito is yung inner ear natin and nerve pathway na nagdadala ng tunog mula sa utak natin. So, karaniwan dito is nagiging permanent yung sakit na to And yung hearing loss na to is nagmumula siya sa sakit, sa sobrang ingay, sa pagtanda, and kapag may pinsala sa ugat natin. And yung, for example naman dito is, yung pag, kunyari, worker ka, yung pag, malakas lagi yung naririnig mo na sound. For example, yung mga makina, pag marami kang naririnig na sound yung malalakas, maaaring yung maging cause ng hearing loss na to. Age of hearing impairment. Prelingual. The loss of hearing where speech and language have not yet developed. So, ang prelingual hearing impairment ay nangyayari bago matuto magsalita or bago makaunawa yung isang bata. So, karaniwan itong nangyayari pagkasilang pa lamang or pagbata pa lamang sila. So, ito is dahil dito, nahihirapan yung isang bata na makapag-communicate. Kaya ang karaniwan nangyayari is tinuturuan mag-sign language or gumamit ng hearing aids yung mga bata na yun. Next is postlingual. The loss of hearing after spontaneous speech and language develop. Dito naman is yung kabaliktaran siya ng prelingual. Dito sa postlingual is yung nawalan ka ng pandinig bago or meron ka ng natutunang wika. For example is yung bata ka pa lang is marunong ka na magsalita, naiintindihan ng mga wika, and nagkaroon ka lang ng problem sa hearing mo, kaya marunong ka pa rin makapag-communicate sa iba, pero kailangan mo pa rin ng mga hearing aids para mas maintindihan mo sila. How hearing impairment occurs. Gradual build-up of earwax. So, ito naman yung kapag marami ng masyadong earwax sa tenga natin, kaya nababara na yung ear canal, kaya nahihirapan na yung mga words or salita na pumasok sa inner ear natin. So, for example, dito is yung kapag yung bata, marami nung siyang tutuloy, parang nahihirapan na siya makarinig or umihina yung pandinig niya. Next is ear infection and abnormal growth of tumors. So, dito naman is kapag yung tenga natin is tinutubuan or may infection or tinutubuan ng mga bukol is maaari din niya makakos para mahirapan na makarinig yung isang tao. Third is ruptured eardrums. Ito naman yung kapag punet or butas yung eardrums natin. Maaaring causes nun is yung lagi ka nakakarinig na malalakas na tunog or aksidente or maaaring infection. Third is ruptured eardrums. So, dito naman, kapag yung tenga natin or yung eardrums natin is butas or punet. So, mga causes nun is kapag yung lagi ka nakakarinig na malalakas na tunog or maaaring accident or infection. So, dahil dito, kapag nasira kasi yung eardrums natin, maaari tayong mahirapan sa makarinig. Last is damage to the inner ear. So, pag nasira yung inner ear natin dahil sa pagtanda, aksidente, malakas na ingay, ay maging or maaaring maging permanent yung hearing loss.
Now let's move on to talk about what is speech impairment. From the word itself, it is a communication disorder such as stuttering, impaired articulation, or a voice impairment that adversely affects a child's educational performance. Speech impairment is mostly caused by hearing loss, brain injury, and also intellectual disability. The impact of speech impairment, first, is it can affect the competency of the learners in reading, writing, and also communication. Second, learners with speech impairment develop social isolation anxiety. Dahil nga sa sinasabi ng kakaiba yung bata na may disabilities, they often face social exclusion kung saan parang dinidisregard sila ng ibang bata. And dahil doon, dahil naapektuhan yung kanilang self-esteem and yung willingness nila makipag-participate sa mga activities or makalugin sa ibang bata. Lastly, learners may be graded harshly on participation without accounting for their physical effort required to speak or write. Since participation based is the nature sa Philippines na recitation, Nagkakaroon ito ng disadvantage para sa mga learners na may speech impairment. Ano nga ba ang maaaring gawin bilang isang educator, or what are the effective classroom strategies na pwede mo i-apply when you're teaching with someone who has speech impairment? First, encourage patience and respect among classmates. Bigyan mo yung learner ng time na i-express yung sarili nila or how they understand the lesson without interruption. Second, allow them to use visual aids, gestures, writing, pictures, or communication boards. Pag pinayagan mo sila or inallow mo yung mga bata na gamitin ang mga materials na ito when they express themselves, they can communicate easier. Third or lastly, work closely with the speech pathologists. Kahit sabihin natin you're already a professional teacher or a licensed teacher, when dealing with this kind of situation, kailangan mo pa rin mag-consult sa isang specialist para na rin ma-adjust mo yung mga strategies or accommodation mo when you were teaching the student. Now, let's move on to the multiple physical impairment. Ito impairment na to ay nangyayari lang if an individual ay merong dalawa o higit pa na physical conditions na nagkakaroon ng significant impact sa kanilang mobility, coordination, and also sa sensory motor functions. There are 4 types of multiple physical impairment. First is the neurological and motor combinations. Ito yung mga learners na merong or nagkakaroon ng challenge sa kanilang gross motor or their walking, and also yung fine motor, which is writing skills. Like for example, ang student na merong cerebral palsy ay meron ding dysarthria or yung motor speech disorder. They may use a motorized wheelchair na kung saan they can use it to move, and also an argumentative and alternative communication device to participate in class discussions. Kasi when they use pen to write, parang it is physically exhausting for them and also impossible. Like, they might use a switch system or an eye tracking, like yung ginagamit yung mata mo para magsulat, software to type essays, and complete assignment. Second is yung tinatawag natin combination of sensory and orthopedic bearings. Ito is when a physical disability is paired with a sensory loss, or the learner must rely on their alternative pathways to access information. For example, ang student na may spina bifida, or what we call the defective neural tube sa likod, ay merong significant visual impairment or medyo malabo yung mata, ay gumagamit ng manual wheelchair para lang ma-navigate yung school, pero hindi nyo naman nakikita yung mga hindi nyo naman nabasa yung standard print textbook o yung whiteboards. Third is the degenerative and systematic. Third is the degenerative and systematic conditions. Ito yung mga learners na merong fluctuating energy levels, and also they only have a specific amount of time wherein they will progressively lose function. Like for example, a student with Duchenne muscular dystrophy or DMD. When we say DMD, ito yung result of a defective gene na kung saan responsible sa pag-produce ng key muscle protein. Kapag wala ang dystrophin cells, which is the key muscle protein, easily become damaged na nagre-result sa heart and brain failure. Like, so sa mga student na nakakaranas nun, they might walk with a heavy gait but struggles with hand fatigue during long writing tasks, and as they get older, they may transition to using a power chair and require voice-to-text software. Lastly is the traumatic injury clusters. Students returning to school after a major injury often deal with a combination of physical and cognitive motor hurdles or struggles. Like for example, ang student na nakasurvive sa traumatic brain injury na nagre-result into hemiplegia, which is a paralysis lang sa isang side.
Now, let's talk about visual arts. Visual arts is a form of art that we can see through our eyes. We can express ideas, emotions, and creativity through visual elements like line, shape, and textures. Now, visual arts is a real not only to look beautiful, but it has also a deep meaning. Visual arts, we can communicate a message, tell stories, and reflect cultures and human experiences. There are 5 types of primary visual arts. 1 is painting. Painting is the process of applying pigments or color to a solid surface like a canvas, papers, or walls. It relies heavily on color theory and brushwork to create depth and emotion. Historically, this includes everything from ancient oil portraits to modern contract acrylics. Second is drawing. While painting focuses on mass and color, drawing focuses on line and marks. It is the foundation of visual arts. Artists use tools like graphic pencils, charcoals, and ink to create sketches or highly detailed realistic renderings. Third is sculpture. Unlike painting and drawing, which are two-dimensional or flat, sculpture is three-dimensional. You can walk around it and view it from different angles. It created using 2 main methods, which the subtractive and additive. What do we mean by subtractive? Subtractive it is a carving away materials like marble or woods, while the additive is building up and modeling materials like clay or welding metals. Fourth is photography. Photography is the art of capturing light through a camera. It bridges the gap between the reality and the art. A photographer uses composition, lighting, and timing to export a specific perspective or freeze a moment in time to tell a story. And last, number 5 is architecture. Architecture is often called the mother of all arts. It is unique because it must be functional as well as beautiful. It is the art and science of designing buildings and structures. Architects must balance the aesthetic look of a building with the physics required to make it safe and habitable. Now, let's move from what we see to what we hear. Let's talk about music. Music is a universal language, but in the context of special education, it serves a very specific and transformative purpose by using rhythm, beat, and melody. Music supports the development of learners with special needs. It goes far beyond a simple entertainment. In a classroom setting, music acts as a therapeutic tool to help students express complex emotions, improve communications and memories, enhance focus and motor skills, encourage active participation in class activities. In short, whether through a canvas or melody. These arts provide efficient pathways for every student to connect with the world around them.
Now, let me discuss learners who are gifted and talented. But first, what is the difference between gifted and talented learners? Gifted learners refers to a natural ability of learners towards one or more academic subjects. It is more about learning through something but with a high level of knowledge. Talented, it refers to the practical skills of a learner in one or more abilities. It is more on sports, creativity, or performing something that you are good at. In short, gifted is coming from their brain and talented is coming from their skills. Next is, what are the causes of learners who are gifted and talented? We have genetic and environmental. Genetic, it comes through their genes that will be passed from the parents through the next generations. Because they said that if your parents are smart, then you will grow smart. For environmental, they said that learning can be learned by exposing your kids and enhancing them in the early stages of their ages. Experiences that will come outside of their houses will teach the learners different abilities and learnings. Intellectual giftedness. A child whose intellectual capacity, creativity, and potential for success are so outstanding that differentiated general education programs are unable to meet their needs, thereby have a negative impact on their academic performance and require specialized instruction or support services. For example, a grade 3 teacher was teaching the kids basic English and mathematics like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. However, this kid already taught himself how to solve algebra and read deep English words. The kid knows more and believes that he or she doesn't need to do tasks anymore. And now, we have 3 signs that a learner is intellectually gifted. First is advanced comprehension. A person who reads independently with adult-level books while reading it rapidly and can recall it easily. They are the learners who can easily comprehend or interpret something that he or she just read faster. They can play at a high level, solve problem solving, and have abstract thinking compared to others. Second is unusually varied interest and curiosity. Learners who are always willing to learn new deeper things with high curiosity about a lot of things. Their desire to learn usually comes through their curiosity and sometimes their interest. Unlike others, these students treat this world as a giant puzzle of information. They want to discover something new so that they can get bored. The last one is high working memory capacity. Unlike other learners, they can store greater memories in a shorter time. It is like if a normal student can store 2 items in their mind, they can store 4 items in it. It is easier for them to pick up things faster so that they have a high level of knowledge than the other students. But there are teaching strategies for learners who are intellectually gifted. First, do not compare them to others. Second is, give them more challenges. Third is, let them do things they are bad at. Fourth is, do not compliment them too much. And the last one is, provide them plenty of opportunities to engage in social activities.